Charlie Sheen watched a movie and called the FBI because he was convinced he just witnessed a real murder. They opened a federal investigation, interrogated the distributor, and confiscated the tape. And that film isn't even the most extreme one here. Dick Randall had been making exploitation films for years when he wrote Pieces. He knew the formula: make it trashy, make it gory, give the grindhouse crowd what they want. The movie opens with a kid getting caught by his mother playing with a jigsaw puzzle of a naked woman. She tells him to throw it away. He leaves, comes back with an axe, and kills her. Then it jumps 40 years ahead to a college campus where someone's using a chainsaw on students and collecting body parts like he's building a puzzle. Randall delivered exactly what he promised. Tons of nudity, extreme gore for the time, the whole exploitation package. It made money in the grindhouse circuit. But when the video nasty panic hit the UK, Pieces ended up on the list. Police went into video stores and physically removed it from shelves. And the production was messed up in ways that went beyond the script. One of the actresses there was a total beginner, and her role wasn't even supposed to involve nudity. The director pressured her into filming nude scenes anyway. Then they brought out a working chainsaw and filmed the scene with it running inches from her body. She was so scared she peed herself on camera, and they kept that take in the movie. After Cannibal Holocaust became a notorious hit, a Japanese producer decided he wanted to go further. His pitch was simple: make a fake snuff film that looked so real people would believe it. The film itself is just men torturing a woman for an hour. They beat her, burn her with oil, pour maggots on her, stick a needle through her eye. There's no story and basically no characters. Just an hour of torture designed to look as real as possible. The marketing claimed it was real footage of a real murder. And it worked. The second film in the series became a top 10 bestseller in Japan, outselling most Hollywood releases for 2 months. People happily paid money to watch real murder footage, which of course turned out to be fake. A film critic gave Charlie Sheen a copy of the second guinea pig film. Sheen watched it and called the FBI because he thought he just witnessed an actual killing. The FBI took it seriously. They opened a case, interrogated the American distributor, confiscated Sheen's tape, and started investigating the production. It became a federal matter. The case only closed after the filmmakers produced a documentary proving the effects were staged. Lucio Fulci had already built a reputation for extreme violence in his horror films. He'd done Zombie the Beyond, all these movies with graphic violence and gore. In 1982, he wanted to make the most extreme slasher anyone had seen. The New York Ripper follows a serial killer with a razor blade going after women in New York City. Fulci made the kills as graphic and disturbing as he could. The whole film was designed to be as mean and brutal as possible. When distributors tried to release it in the UK in 1984, they had to submit it to the British Board of Film Classification for approval. The chief censor was James Furman, and when he watched The New York Ripper, he was so disgusted he personally arranged to have the film removed from the country. It stayed banned in the UK for 20 years. This one stars a porn actress, Samantha Fox, as a psychotic woman recently released from a psychiatric institution who's driven to kill by an ancestral curse. Bodies pile up around her in bloody, creative ways. Doris Wishman had been making exploitation films since the 60s. Nudie films, hardcore porn, whatever would sell. By the late 70s, she was in her 60s and decided to cash in on the slasher boom that Halloween started. She shot the whole thing in 1979, used friends' houses as locations, kept it cheap. Then the company processing her film went bankrupt and a disgruntled employee destroyed most of her footage. Doris had less than half of what she shot. Normal move would be to walk away, but she had already sold the film to distributors. She was legally obligated to deliver a finished movie. So she spent 4 years trying to salvage it. Rewrote the script, reshot scenes with different actors, pulled footage from her old films, edited it all together into something she could technically call a complete product. The movie's so bad it became legendary. Then in 2018, the cinematographer's family found the original cut on VHS and uploaded it to YouTube. Turned out the destroyed footage had been saved and it was a completely different film. Abel Ferrara made a revenge film in 1981. The main character is a mute woman who works in the garment district in Manhattan. She gets raped on her way home from the store, then she gets home and gets assaulted again by a burglar who's in her apartment. She kills the second guy with a paperweight and an iron, cuts up his body in the bathtub, and takes his gun. Then she starts shooting men all over the city. By the end, she's dressed as a nun massacring people at a Halloween party. Ferrara cast this 17-year-old named Zoe Tamerlis to play the lead, and she was really talented. She ended up co-writing Bad Lieutenant with Ferrara years later. She also played a heroin addict in that movie, and she was one in real life. She died in Paris in 1999. She was 37 years old, heart failure from years of drug use. Roger Corman's studio made the Slumber Party Massacre in 1982, and it did well enough that they wanted another one. There was a woman named Carol Frank who'd worked as a personal assistant on that film. She'd basically watched the whole thing get made from the sidelines. Corman told her to make the same movie again. So she did. There's a girl who joins a sorority house. Turns out her brother murdered their whole family in that house years ago. The brother escapes from an asylum and shows up to kill everyone. He's a silent guy in hospital clothes, totally ripping off Halloween. He picks off the sorority sisters one by one. The movie is 74 minutes long. It's a complete by-the-numbers slasher that does exactly what the title says and nothing else. There's even a scene where 3 sorority girls try on lingerie for no reason except to get them half naked before they die. It has 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. And Carol Frank never directed another film after this. She got one shot, made what Corman told her to make, and that was it for her career. Cannibal Holocaust came out in 1980. It had real animal killings, extreme violence. The whole thing looked so real that the director actually got arrested because authorities thought he'd killed the actors. Italian director Umberto Lenzi saw that and decided he could make something even more extreme. His film follows a grad student who goes into the Amazon to prove that cannibalism is just a myth. She's wrong. They run into fugitive drug dealers who've been torturing and murdering people from a local tribe. The tribe wants revenge. What happens next is basically just one atrocity after another. A guy gets his arm hacked off, another guy gets castrated, and the tribe eats his genitals right in front of him. A woman gets hung up by metal hooks that go through her breasts. And there are more real animal killings throughout. The U.S. distributor called it the most violent film ever made and claimed it was banned in 31 countries. That banned thing was mostly a marketing lie, but it worked. Some Italian producers made a movie about a mad scientist who injects rat DNA into a monkey egg. He's trying to create a new species. What he gets is this deformed mutant creature, the Ratman. They hired Nelson de la Rosa to play the creature. He was the world's smallest man at the time, just over 2 feet tall. They gave him plastic fangs and made him look really creepy, and he's pretty much the only reason this movie works somehow. The plot is pretty basic. The creature escapes and starts killing people on a Caribbean island. Fashion model goes missing, her sister investigates, bodies pile up with throats torn out. Standard exploitation stuff with gratuitous shower scenes thrown in. Nelson later ended up in the 1996 remake of The Island of Dr. Moreau. He and Marlon Brando became close on set, and Brando pushed for his role to be expanded. So this guy went from a cheap Italian horror movie to being Marlon Brando's companion on set. And later, that whole weird relationship inspired the creation of Mini-Me in Austin Powers. This is a Bigfoot slasher. A professor takes his students into the wilderness to investigate killings that people say were done by Sasquatch. The production values are really low, the acting is terrible, but the kill scenes are extreme. There's a scene where Bigfoot castrates a biker. There's another one where Bigfoot rips out a student's intestines and uses them as a weapon. The film got banned in the UK and stayed banned for 14 years. And the thing is, none of that extreme gore was in the original movie. Director James Wasson made a pretty tame Bigfoot film. It screened at a festival and bombed. So the producer, Jim Ball, went out and shot a bunch of gore sequences on his own. Then he stuck them throughout the film as flashbacks. Wasson had nothing to do with those new scenes. The movie that got banned for over a decade was actually two different films cut together. Wasson made something forgettable. Ball added extreme violence to try to save it, and that version became infamous enough to get banned in multiple countries.